prophecies and conspiracies. Peering into darkness is what we do. Derek and Sharon Gilbert break it all down for you.
Times of high weirdness are upon us. Welcome to the program. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and welcome to our living room, everybody. We are delighted you're here. If you're brand new to PID Radio, we've been doing this for 21 plus years.
Yeah, we are the OGs of podcasting. We used to be the OGs of, yes. Used to say of Christian podcasting, but we've said before, and again, this is not to toot our own horn too much because we're certainly not the most popular podcast out there.
Oh, hardly.
But we're the most consistent. We've been doing this since March of 2005. And so thank you for joining us. You want to dig into the archives? You can find those easily through our app. And you'll find that at gilberthouse.org/app or pidradio.com/app. In fact, we started putting out archived episodes on Thursdays, Throwback Thursday episodes. This past Thursday, boy, if you haven't listened to that one, David Flynn from 2006 talking about the occult signature of the 1947 Roswell UFO crash.
You know, one of our friends he commented to this, saying that hour went by way too quickly.
Shortest hour of his life, he said. John, thank you very much for that comment.
We do appreciate that.
John is one who does a lot of deep dives into research and weirdness here in the Ozarks. And
he is a font of information. Seriously,
he is.
I love hearing him share what he knows.
Yes.
He needs a podcast.
He does. And very intelligent guy. Many, many years in, just say, the legal profession. There's definitely somebody who applying his intellect in interesting ways. And that is what we're going to do for the next hour or so, because there's a lot going on this past week. And in fact, the David Flynn Throwback Thursday episode actually has some connection to some of this.
You know, if you have not read Flynn's works, you can get the entire collection of his written works from Skywatch TV. I think they still have a few of those. It's a book called The David Flynn Collection.
Well, let me check on that.
They still have that? I know we've got a copy
Looking it
here.
up now. Skywatch TV. Fingers.
I remember when you and I were first living in our first house in Shelbyville, Indiana, and Tom Horn sent me David's Temple at the Center of Time to get my opinion on it. And boy, howdy. That was amazing.
Yeah, I started reading it. I've never finished. All right, why does it say no results for... Let me just do a search for Flynn instead of David Flynn. No, they do not have any of David Flynn's
works
a
shame.
Available at the store anymore.
I wonder if they ever release that in Kindle. We'll have to take a look at that. But boy, look, if you happen to be a possessor of one of Flynn's books, hang on to it. They've got a lot of value.
They do. And we've got most of them here, including the David Flynn collection, which is all of them in one large volume. But his brother, Mark Flynn, wrote a fascinating book called Forbidden Secrets of the Labyrinth.
Yes. Mark and David, twin brothers. Yeah. And they have very similar brains. Of course,
Both
David's
brilliant.
gone to be with the Lord. Mark is still with us, thank the Lord. And I pray he's still writing.
Yeah, very, very quiet. He's gone quiet the last few years.
Which may mean he's writing, because that's what a writer needs to do to get the work done.
Well, boy, so many things this week, over the past week or so to discuss.
Well, since we're at high weirdness, let's just go to the UFO stuff, because a number of UFO stories have come out, including 8 more names to add to the very long dead and missing scientists.
Yeah, this is really a strange thing. And there have been a number of UFO-related stories over the past week, so hopefully we can get to all of those in the course of the hour here. And just up front, we want to put this out. We do not believe that UFOs are piloted by legitimate extraterrestrials.
No, not at all. In fact, J.D. Vance doesn't believe it either.
Well, yes, he was asked about that, and this was And because it came out on April 1st, I thought, okay, wait a minute. Is this a joke story? No, it's legit. He said that he does not believe that UFOs or ETs, more accurately, are extraterrestrials, that they are demons. And it's like, well, good for him, because he's not, I think he's correct. I think the UFO phenomenon needs to be separated from the abduction or contactee phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. Because that is legit. That is a real thing. The question is, what is causing the experience?
Exactly. There are a number of explanations for mysterious lights in the sky. Many of them are government programs. It could be drones that are being tested. Satellites, the B-1, B-2 bomber programs in recent years, the F-117, if you want to go back.
Venus.
And if you say it's anything other than the planet Venus, you're a dead man. X-Files
Millennium.
reference.
Oh, it was X-Files. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, the Jose Chung one.
So, and having co-written the book Destination Earth with Donna Howell and Allie Anderson, I wrote the section on not only the government's involvement in directing the narrative, including what's come out since 2017 with the Tic Tac videos and all that. The USS Nimitz incident from 2004. The fact that video of the incident was available on YouTube beginning in 2007, but had been pulled off the web by 2014 after a number of the men on the USS Nimitz, the USS Princeton, the USS, I think Los Angeles was the submarine that was involved in the training exercise where that video manifested. Or the video, the Tic Tac UFO, visited by men from a 3-letter agency. Don't know which one. CIA, DIA, NSA, don't know. And basically told, shut up. And then suddenly in 2017, in December of 2017, when Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal wrote that article for the New York Times, exposing it, quoting Luis Elizondo, former, in air quotes, DIA official who supposedly worked for a secret government agency, highly funded but secretive government agency. Then suddenly that story was back out again. Like, okay. And suddenly Elizondo is part of the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, which just not coincidentally was offering stock to investors.
Exactly. They were looking for money.
Right. And the entire board of directors was straight out of Spook Central. They were all connected to the military intelligence complex.
I have a question for you, Mr. Gilbert. When you wrote your contribution to Destination Earth, did you mention John Glenn?
I did not.
Well, let me say, earlier today, this morning, you and I were talking about the Artemis II mission to the moon, and questions that some people have about it. I have a few questions about it. I'm not going to state a positive conclusion because I can't prove what I think may be the answer. But when I was in the 4th grade, 1962, 3rd or 4th, we all watched in our little classroom in Hanover, Indiana. We watched John Glenn circumnavigate the Earth in the Friendship 7.
Yeah, I wrote a speech about him for a contest in Cub Scouts.
Did you know that he saw lights outside the capsule?
I did know that.
That he described as fireflies, as if they were accompanying him. Yellow glowing particles that were later determined to probably be frost crystals.
Okay.
And later on, Scott Carpenter, also an astronaut, reportedly proved that they were frost particles. I don't know how he proved that, because I don't think he did an extra capsule walk, because he was in there alone, and generally you don't do a spacewalk if you're all
Right,
alone.
yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I think the reports of something outside of our understanding have. And when I was writing the Red Wing saga, very early, one of the books, I think it was the first or second book, I started doing some research on 19th century reports of unexplained phenomena.
Right.
And there was one in South America that an indigenous family were inside their domicile. I think it was a hut of some kind. And bright light at night, the husband went out, and I think his family joined him as he just stayed out there and stared at this thing up in the sky that he couldn't explain. And they all had what were understood later on as radiation burns. This was in the 19th
century, yeah.
You could say, okay, it was one of the early balloons that someone was up there flying around.
But not causing radiation burns.
Causing radiation burns, exactly.
Yeah. Go back to the 4th century BC, and Alexander the Great reportedly seeing flying shields in the sky.
Yes.
So, yeah, these things have been around for a long time.
Didn't Constantine also see something up in the sky?
Maybe. I don't remember reading anything about that.
I thought that was what caused his conversion.
Oh, well, yeah, he saw like a cross in the sky.
Yeah, he saw something. Yeah, I think it may have been a cross.
And the words, "in this sign conquer," which he used then to justify, taking over the whole Roman Empire. Yeah. Well, don't know if we'd qualify that as a UFO, but there have been mysterious lights in the sky for a long time.
And Renaissance paintings sometimes contain what appear to be some sort of extraterrestrial capsule.
There's an art historian who's done a website on that, and he's debunked that.
Oh, I know. I think they were usually comets or something like that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, iconography. When we look backward from a 21st century perspective, like the crazy hair guy in the History Channel who says, Ezekiel's wheel was probably a UFO, when in fact the iconography that Ezekiel was describing was well known to people in the ancient Near East. Oh, yeah, that's a royal throne.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, getting to the disappearance and the reported deaths of certain scientists.
I have a timeline.
This all comes after, and you can give the timeline here in a second, comes after President Donald Trump, saying he wants all the UFO files released. Yeah.
But the chronology actually goes back to the Biden years. July 4th of 2024, NASA-affiliated scientist Frank Maywald died in Los Angeles, age 61. He'd been working for decades at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or the Jack Parsons Laboratory. If you know, you know.
I know.
Working on advanced space instrumentation and planetary detection systems, including research aimed at identifying signs of life on worlds like Europa and Enceladus. Europa is a moon of Jupiter. Yeah, and I believe Enceladus is as well.
And Europa plays a big part in
2001 Space Odyssey.
2010.
Or 2010, yes. Attempt no landings there. Yeah. He, his death at the time didn't really raise any red flags, but there was no cause of death ever disclosed, no autopsy. And then later, when you start getting into the other scientists who disappeared or died, then people go back and look and say, hey, what about that guy? So Maywald was added to the list sort of after the fact. On May 4th of last year, Anthony Chavez, a former employee at Los Alamos National Laboratory, where they did the Manhattan Project, went out walking and just disappeared. He had been working, just the fact that you work at Los Alamos and you're privy to a lot of national
nuclear
secrets. Yeah.
secrets and,
Right.
and yeah, exactly.
But he left home with no phone, no wallet, and there have been no sightings of him since he left his home.
And I think that's the big connection. Not only these scientists work in connected fields, but they seem to disappear and leave all of their personal items at home.
Right.
Or at the office.
June 22nd of last year, 9:10 a.m., Monica Riza, who is a senior aerospace engineer and former technical fellow at Aerojet Rocketdyne. She was a leading figure in advanced rocket propulsion materials. She'd co-invented a nickel-based superalloy that are being used in next-generation engines, designed to reduce reliance on foreign propulsion systems.
Interesting.
She vanished while hiking near Mount Waterman in California. Search lasted for 8 days involving helicopters, drones, canine units. No trace of her was ever found. 4 days later, June 26th, approximately 2:20 p.m., Melissa Casillas, last seen walking alone along State Road 518 in New Mexico. She'd been an administrative professional at Los Alamos in a high security area tied to nuclear defense research. Her phones had been left behind, but had been factory reset.
Yes. Now, isn't that interesting?
That is, because that's not something you do. Yeah, I'm going to go out walking and I'm going to just, reset my phones and delete all my data. Now, of course, data should be, you would assume,
in the cloud.
backed up in the cloud. On December 12th of last year, Jason Thomas, Assistant Director of Chemical Biology at Novartis, which is a pharmaceutical company involving biochemical research, body was later found on March 17th, so just a couple of weeks ago. On December 15th, 2025, Nuno Loureiro, director of the MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center, an expert recognized around the world for plasma physics and fusion energy, died the following day.
And wasn't another one killed shortly after that?
February 16th, Carl Grillmer, Caltech astrophysicist, was killed. If I remember the story correctly, he was shot dead 6 a.m. on his front porch. So February 27th, retired Air Force General William McCasland, and his disappearance is what sort of triggered people digging into this a little more carefully. William McCasland vanished without a trace. He had previously commanded the Air Force Research Laboratory, overseeing advanced space and defense programs. And, of course, that would be at the highest level of U.S. military research and technology. But there was another woman who disappeared since McCasland. And in fact, Monica Riza had been working on a program that McCasland formerly oversaw. Yeah, Riza had worked on a government-funded rocket materials project overseen by McCasland. Interestingly, and this is a local connection for us, is that our congressman from our district here in Missouri, Representative Eric Burleson, has requested the involvement of the FBI into the disappearances of General McCasland and Monica Riza, and presumably then any other disappearances or deaths that may be connected. The sheriff's department in Albuquerque, so I think that's where McCasland was also based, has said that it does not appear that there's any connection.
Here's something that's weird. You and I follow a YouTuber called Jesus Enrique Rosas. He's a brilliant researcher and has a knack for writing the script for his videos. And the way he delivers them have you fascinated. He is Venezuelan by birth, and so he comments on political things as well as just oddities, crimes that are not solved, things like that. He had mentioned in his coverage of these missing scientists that he thinks they began in the 1950s. Well, I have been sitting here doing a little research. They may have begun in the 1930s.
Wow.
With the disappearance of a scientist named Moharana, and he vanished in 1938, and he had been part of the Fermi lab.
Oh, okay.
The Enrico Fermi lab.
Up in Chicago, yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Or Chicago Land, as they call it up there.
Yep. Now, from that point, the 1930s through the 1950s, it was assumed that these scientists were leaving to serve another country. We'll just put it that way.
Okay.
Whether or not this is true, a couple of them who vanished in the 50s did later on appear to be in Russia. There were some scientists even involved in the Manhattan Project that in the 1940s who had sympathies for Russia because they felt if one side was going to have the secret to atomic fission, then the other side should have it too, to equalize the powers.
Mutual assured destruction.
Yes, exactly.
It's mad.
But when you just seem to vanish into thin air, is it that these stories are... Is it that we're seeing these stories more now because there are UFO stories also? And full disclosure, the film is coming out in June of this year.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? This is all sort of building interest in this.
Yeah.
Again,
it doesn't replace these people who have gone missing or died. I mean, that is tragic, and I pray that those who are missing are still alive.
Yeah.
But it is curious that this seems to be the year of disclosure.
Yeah. L.A. Marzulli has been talking about this for 20 years.
Isn't L.A. going to be at one of the conferences this year?
No, not the. We're going to be at 2 conferences. We'll tell you about those at the end of the program.
Yeah.
But he is not scheduled to be at either of the 2 that we're scheduled to be at. The fact that these people disappeared without taking their phones, those that have disappeared, like McCaslin and Monica Riza, and Melissa Cassius, whose phones were wiped clean. Those sound a lot like abductions. And again, you pray that they're still alive, but you have to wonder who would benefit from their disappearance or their abduction. Why, when they were taken, I mean, that's the only explanation I can come up with for having left behind phone, or, when the phone left behind, having it wiped clean, because there might have been some evidence on the phone to identify who had perhaps made an appointment to meet with her and have her open the front door.
But those texts or anything...
Again, should have been backed up in the cloud, right? Unless it's an agency that has the capability to get in and wipe those. And that would point to an agency like the NSA, which has access to all of the cloud data. I mean, that was revealed by, who was the whistleblower who's been hiding in Russia now for...
oh gosh, why can't I...
10 or 15 years. I can see his face, but I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
The young man who accessed the stuff from Hawaii,
right.
I think?
He was a CIA operative, and he basically spilled the beans on the NSA, which I always thought indicated an interagency rivalry between CIA and NSA.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's been known, because we talked about this back in 2006, about how an AT&T switching office in San Francisco allowed the NSA to tap into all of our telephone communications.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a wiretap; it was a country tap.
Yep.
And I actually pulled up a slide, put a slide in a presentation I gave on. Oh gosh, I think it was called "Facebook and Antichrist." Was a presentation I gave years ago, and just to show that we were talking about this before this guy spilled the beans like 2013. That this story has been out there. It didn't take that guy from CIA telling tales on the NSA for people who've been paying attention to know that the agencies have access to everything. And since everything we do goes through a cloud, if you use Gmail, which is, I use Gmail, but if I were going to do something nefarious, I would never use Gmail
I know.
to communicate with somebody else. In fact, I'd probably do it on slips of paper instead of action. And I would never even talk about it with my phone in the room. Mm-hmm. When I wrote The God Conspiracy originally back in 2006, I had a case, as a scene where one of the characters grabs a phone from another one and throws it out the window of a moving vehicle. So don't you realize this is how they're tracing you? Which 20 years ago, people have been like, what? And now we just sort of like, oh yeah, well, okay, that's just the way it is. And because that is kind of the way it is. But for these folks to walk out, we all walk.
Edward Snowden.
Edward Snowden, thank you. And by the way, Enceladus is a moon of Saturn, not Jupiter. I was mistaken. For these people to leave their homes.
You had said Europa was a moon of...
Europa's a moon of Jupiter, but I also said Enceladus was a moon of Jupiter.
Sorry.
Just for them to leave their phone or phones. Who does that anymore? Especially if you're going hiking and you get into trouble. You want to have a phone to call for help. Nobody does that anymore. It doesn't. So anyway, all we can do is speculate. We don't know. And we're just making you aware of this. We also, the similarity to the missing scientists stories that we were talking about 20 years ago, Steve Quayle had a list of the dead scientists.
It's still up at his website.
It is, in fact. That's one of the keywords when you do a search on the web. Steve Quayle, missing scientists, gold.
Yes.
In fact,
you don't even have to put in gold.
No.
He is a metals broker.
When you do a search, there are keywords like CEO words that come up. And that's still attached to his website 20 years after the missing scientists. There it is, dead scientists. Click here.
By the way, in case you're wondering.
From 2004 to 2015. Enceladus
was a giant. He was the son of Gaia and Uranus.
Which makes sense, because Saturn was one of the Titans. Mm-hmm. King of the Titans, in fact, the equivalent of Kronos.
Yeah, he fought in the Gigantomachy.
I'd known that and forgotten it. He was one of the minor figures of...
It's like Sherlock Holmes. Now that I've heard that, I'm quickly going to forget it because I only have so much space in my brain. I'm paraphrasing.
Yep.
Yeah, Watson was upset. What? Watson had just told him something that Sherlock Holmes felt wasn't important.
Didn't need to know that. Yeah, the fact that the Earth revolved around the sun. Now that I know that, I'll forget it. It's not relevant to anything I do. Steve has a long list at his website. In fact, I'll put this link in the show notes because going back to 2005, we were talking about this and Steve was tracking it and had been tracking it for years. But a lot of scientists that were connected to biotech and neurobiology.
That was the connection to them back then.
Right.
And having a degree in that field, I was fascinated by it because what were they, was their work connected? Were they all looking into possible gain of function research?
Yeah. Don't know. But the connection here seems to be aerospace and space exploration. Mm-hmm. And as you say, the Steven Spielberg movie coming out this summer. And of course, Spielberg, other than the Raiders of the Lost Ark films, he's probably best known for things like E.T. Mm-hmm. and Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind.
You know, if you want to connect the two, the old list and the new list, you can do so with the Andromeda strain. A satellite lands on Earth,
right,
and it's got a pathogen aboard it that starts to spread exponentially.
Yeah. Didn't they find the cure was Windex? Oh, wait, no, that's to stop ants from getting up into your kitchen.
Yeah. Or also, you know, in my big fat Greek wedding.
Yeah. Was that Windex or WD-40?
No, it was Windex he used. Oh, this will fix it. Let me just spray your arm. Fixes everything.
Yeah, by the way,
everything. Michael Constantine.
Yeah, wonderful
was
actor.
So funny in that.
He was. By the way, my apologies for my raspy voice and the coughing. It's
just part of your life. Part
of the autoimmune issue. It just leaves gunk on my vocal cords all the time.
Yeah.
So, well, in addition to J.D. Vance saying that ETs are demons and the missing scientists, we've got former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, who said in an interview with Benny Johnson this past week that the United States, that when he was in Congress, he received a classified briefing that the United States has a top secret, quote, alien hybrid breeding program, end quote. Now, Matt Gaetz is now an anchor at One America News.
Yeah.
You might remember that he was, for about 5 minutes, he was the nominee for Attorney General.
Yeah.
And when senators let it be known to the White House that we're not going to vote for him, President Trump then selected Pam Bondi, who is now out as of this week. But anyway, for whatever reason, Benny Johnson has been asking guests on his program about aliens.
Benny Johnson has a really interesting X account. I wonder if does he have a Substack?
Don't think so. He has been kind of a rising star in the alternative media for the last couple of years. A friend of ours sends me videos of Benny Johnson's on a fairly regular basis. Mm-hmm. And I'd always kind of taken him with a grain of salt, like, okay, he's going for clicks, but he does get some good interviews, and he's broken some stories too. So he does a good job. He works hard. And during his interview with Gaetz, he asked Gaetz what was the most disturbing alien information he'd received as a member of Congress, and that's Gaetz saying he'd received the intelligence of locations of alien hybrid breeding programs. He said, quote, I had someone come and brief me who was in a military uniform, worked for the United States Army, that was briefing me on the locations of hybrid breeding programs where captured aliens were breeding with humans to create some hybrid race that could engage in intergalactic communication, end quote.
Okay, this and connected stories that have been coming out since you and I started doing PID radio is why I think, just my opinion, not even allegedly, it is my opinion, that you, Derek, should include at least something about this phenomenon in War of the Watchers Part 2.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because when you get past 1947 in Roswell, you get, of course, to the Israel's Declaration of Independence in May of 1948.
Yes. A lot of things happened in 47.
Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard with the Babylon working.
Yep. The UN formed. I think the CIA was formed in 47.
Yeah.
A lot of really interesting things happened that year.
Yeah.
And then, of course, followed up by 1948, which was the birth of Israel, or the rebirth of Israel, I should say. It had existed previously.
Yes. What's interesting is that after Benny Johnson posted the interview with Matt Gaetz, an Australian senator, so he's in the legislature in Australia, Ralph Babbitt, posted to X, quote, "Let's just say some of you would be very surprised who's not entirely human," end quote.
That's a dangerous statement to say.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
Oh, I agree. For the same reason that years ago, we were critical of those who claimed that there are Nephilim walking among us.
Mm-hmm.
But now, rather than being giants, they look just like us. You can't tell who's who.
I know. When you start down that road, then it's very easy to discriminate and make judgments.
Yeah.
And, okay, you're not real. And I've seen this blanket statement regarding certain royal houses
Right.
and certain world leaders and, getting into the whole reptilian thing. And
Yeah.
and it's a dangerous thing because here's the truth. And I'm saying this on the Saturday before Resurrection Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Our Lord died for all the earth.
Yeah.
There is, and I believe this was the Mount Hermon experiment, if you want to put it that way. The cause for it was, let's so pollute the human genome that A, we stop this Messiah from being born from them, and B, not one of them can ever sit on that throne, and there's no reason why the Creator would ever do anything for them because they are so polluted.
Yeah.
And they probably rejoiced when the flood came, except for their kids dying. They probably hated that.
Exactly.
But they also created an army. Is that still going on? Possibly going on genetically in labs, and I don't think that it's the same as it was before the flood.
No.
But when you get into I'm pretty sure, I don't like you, so you're probably not even human.
Right. And because you're irredeemable, then eliminating you would not be a sin.
Yes, exactly. You're not human.
Right.
Therefore, there is no reason why shedding your blood
Right.
would be a sin.
Yeah. Shedding human blood, Genesis 9, God telling Noah that even when an animal sheds human blood, there would be a reckoning. But hey, if you're a hybrid, well, no problem. Now, the logic of this claim that we need to create a hybrid so we can conduct intergalactic communication, I'm sorry, logically, that just fails the smell test. Mm-hmm. Why would we need that? We've got AI that should be able to detect patterns and extract enough information to allow for even rudimentary communication. Mm-hmm. And what were you talking intergalactic? Are you actually talking about sending messages tens of thousands or millions of light years into space, or talking to the aliens that are already here?
Well, that's a good question, but also let's not forget the intergalactic visitors that came through those space rocks.
Yeah.
That, like Oumuamua,
Uh-huh.
that we talked about on Sci Friday back in the day. There was even a song about it. That there was a claim by a Harvard scientist.
Avi Loeb was making this claim. He's making this claim again about
That's a
three-eye
ship. It's
atlas.
unnatural.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when you read, 17 paragraphs down, it's like, well, it probably is natural.
Yeah.
But that doesn't get clicks.
No, it does
Yeah.
not.
Sorry,
and a lot of this
Professor
is all
Loeb.
about getting clicks.
Yeah. And grant funding. So
Well, yes.
the other thing, and as a molecular biologist, you would understand this with an emphasis on genetics.
Mm-hmm.
Why would humans be able to interbreed with space aliens any more easily than we could interbreed with, say, tigers or humpback whales?
It would not be possible
Yeah.
because we have a barrier in place to stop anything other than human sperm and eggs getting. The ovum itself has a barrier that will only allow human sperm.
Yeah. Now, genetically, they may try to do something through genetic manipulation.
Yes. And that's the interesting thing about the pre-flood era.
Yeah.
There are those who say, no, never happened because the angels don't have, that sort of activity.
They don't have that equipment.
But the Lord said the angels in heaven
Right.
neither marry or given in marriage. But the angels who came down here and left their proper home, their first estate,
Yeah.
they clearly had some ability to take on human form. So
Right.
when they did that, did they somehow manage to mimic human sperm?
I would say so.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes any sense unless they had
'Cause the Bible
science
says it
themselves to overcome.
Right. I mean, the Bible says it happened. They
Exactly.
went into the daughters of men, which is a euphemism
You
for
got it.
intimacy.
Yes.
So,
So we know it did happen.
right.
And there are a lot of really high weirdness. And the late Dr. Tom Horn wrote a lot about this. There are documentaries he and Steve Quayle were involved in about the giants and the giant skeletons. And you were telling me about one, a circle of skeletons that was discovered in the 19th century. Here
1930s.
20th century.
Yeah.
Here in Missouri.
Springfield. In fact, I'll be interviewing the author of a book called Genesis 6 and the Ozarks. Nicholas Daigle. I'll be talking to him on Monday for a future View from the Bunker episode. The foreword for the book, written by Mondo Gonzalez of Prophecy Watchers.
Wow.
So, yeah, it is. And of course, there are a number, dozens, if not hundreds, of accounts from the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Most of them are from down the Ohio River Valley, where you found the mounds. And farmers found that those old mounds were a nuisance when you're trying to plow a field for planting.
And then they'd find things, or they'd find stuff in a cave.
Yeah, and that was the case here in the Ozarks. There was another find in a cave. And of course, Missouri is just shot through with caves.
With lots of them. So is Kentucky.
Yeah. Nicholas Daigle has done some research on this here in the area. I have to find out where he's at. Maybe he can come to the conference in August.
Yes. That would be interesting.
Yeah. But his book, short book, about 80 pages, but it goes into the research that he's done here in the area and finding that there are accounts of 8-foot plus skeletons that have been found here in the Ozarks. Now, where did they come from? L.A. Marzulli has offered the theory based on the Baal or Baal inscription found in America's Stonehenge in New Hampshire, that Amorites may have been the carriers of the giant genes from before the flood. I mean, we know that in the time of Joshua, there were tribes that had to be eliminated by the Israelites that were counted as or considered Rephaim, the Anakim, the Emim, the Zamzumim.
Wasn't there an inscription in, was it Malta? Where was
North
it?
Africa.
Yeah, yes.
That was written about in the 6th century A.D. by a Greek named Procopius that said, "We are they who fled from before the face of Joshua, the robber son of Nun." It's in what would today be Algeria, I think, north coast of Africa. Procopius was not a Christian, so there's no reason for him to try to prove the Bible.
Right.
Now, that inscription has never been found. It was found on a standing stone or a menhir, but scholars consider it. I know where you're thinking, Malta, because there was a fellow a scholar wrote a paper on it named Anthony Frendo from Malta, University of Malta.
Yeah, that's right.
And he argued for the authenticity of the...
What do you need?
Well, I was looking for a handkerchief. Well, just use this.
No, that's fine. I know it. I left one over there.
Oh. Well.
It's disappeared.
Yeah. Anyway. There is some evidence. And, of course, the Phoenicians, who were just the Amorites, what the Amorites were called in more modern times, were the best sailors of the ancient world. And it is possible. There was a stone that was reportedly found in Brazil in the 19th century that has since disappeared. There's some questions about its authenticity, but the inscription in New Hampshire appears to be legit.
You know, what's really interesting about the accounts that I have read regarding the discovery of multiple skeletons that were 7, 8, even 9 feet long, being found in a circle with, their heads towards each other.
Oh, yeah.
It made me think of the movies Alien, where you've got the precursors to the Alien franchise, where you had the...
Oh, Prometheus?
Yeah.
No,
not Prometheus. It's where you discover there is a little machine that's a circle where all of the humans are lined up so they can be infected by the creatures. And I think it was again, this is a film. This isn't a real thing. Right. I think they were in a pyramid, and I think...
Alien versus Predator.
Yes, because the predators were breeding them so they could hunt.
Yes, that's right. It was, Lance Henriksen.
Yes.
Was in that film.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that was in... That kind of drew on actually kind of did the earlier films, kind of drew on the imagery and ideas of H.P. Lovecraft, because it was at the South Pole, Antarctica, which was the site of one of his best-known short stories titled "At the Mountains of Madness."
Yes, which is a really, really good read.
Yeah.
If you've never read any of Lovecraft stuff, it's highly weird. But this idea of a hybrid, because that's what it was, when you would have the infection inside a human, it would have a certain appearance. If it infected another species, it would have a different appearance. So this is a hybrid of an alien life form and a human being.
Yeah. Well, you had the same thing with John Carpenter's The Thing, which actually came out of a 1930s short story. And I forget who the author was, but the original of The Thing was 1955 or thereabouts. Howard Hawks directed the movie.
Howard Hawks, great director.
Yeah.
I think Clark Gable liked him a lot. And he also had some females who liked him. Getting into this idea of sci-fi, science fiction, sort of projecting forward or even foretelling the things that are now common. Anybody who wants to see where humanity is headed would do well to watch science fiction films or to read the stories or novels, because a lot of geeks, we love it, but not every business person or person in government likes those films or stories.
No.
There's a lot of information there.
Well, you remember when we were in Roswell in 2017? It was the 70th anniversary of the Roswell crash. We
70
were there
being a very important biblical number. And then the next year we went to Israel's 70th.
That's
birthday.
right. That's right. We were there with Josh Peck and the late Dr. Michael Heiser. And Mike gave a presentation for Guy Malone, who was organizing the UFO festival that year. I'm not sure the city officials realized that Guy was a committed Christian when they turned that over to him.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. But, Guy had some balanced opinions. He had Nick Redfern, who wrote the book Final Events, which, maybe we can talk about that later. But I interviewed Nick Redfern when that book came out back in 2015. We wanted to interview him
We
in
should
Roswell.
find that.
Yeah, I put that up for a... you know what? I'm going to start doing a Way Back Wednesday for View from the Bunker episodes.
There you go.
In addition to the Throwback Thursday PID radio episodes. Anyway, Mike gave a presentation at the UFO festival there on science fiction as televangelism for the ET gospel. And in fact, I quoted that in the article, which is actually an excerpt from our book, The Gates of Hell, that was just published at our Substack account. And if you haven't subscribed to our Substack account, I encourage you to do it, because we we publish all of our content there.
By the way, I'm going to
audio,
start
video, and excerpts from our books. Yes, my neurological issues now affecting my mouth. Apparently.
Honey, it's just you're so sighted. I am going to start releasing excerpts. I've got it too from my novels on my Substack, and it's just under Sharon K. Gilbert. But probably we'll do it on our joint Substack as well. Many of you have been kind enough to subscribe to my Substack. There's no charge. If you want to donate, that's fine. It's the same way at our joint Substack. There's no charge.
Nothing is behind a paywall.
Exactly. If you choose to donate, that's fine. And some of you do. And we are very, very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But Derek and I learned from Dr. Tom Horn that you give a lot away.
Yeah, and it comes back to you.
Mm-hmm.
But the information is what matters. We're not putting anything behind the paywall saying, here's what you really need to know about the supernatural and the spirit realm and spiritual warfare. And you can read the rest if you just subscribe for X dollars a month.
But Tom would do that. Yeah. He would release a healthy portion of a brand new book.
Yeah.
On his the Skywatch TV website.
Exactly. So we've started doing that as well. We've gone through. I think the only one of our books that's already been published, nonfiction that we have not yet done, is Veneration. So that'll be next. And by the time I get through that, then War of the Watchers will be up, so we can get that out.
There you go.
But it's the section of the Gates of Hell where we talk about. And this is where we get into the crossover between the UFO phenomenon and the spirit realm, the supernatural, because it is a spiritual phenomenon. These are not ETs coming from across the galaxy. We, years ago, interviewed Gary Bates on Skywatch TV about his documentary. John Schneider did the narration on that. It was
John Schneider, who now lives in Madison,
your
Indiana.
Hometown. Yeah,
my hometown. Small world.
Joe Jordan of the CE4 research group was interviewed as part of that documentary. And I forget what the name of the documentary was. But in there, they had a section where they talked about the difficulty, the scientific and engineering difficulties of crossing vast distances in space. We lay people who are not aerospace engineers or astrophysicists or biologists. Yes?
Alien intrusion.
Alien intrusion.
A deception.
That is it. Alien Intrusion is the name of the documentary. Highly recommended. Extremely well done. And in there, they go into the difficulty we would have in crossing space. The vastness of space is far beyond what we can comprehend with our minds. The fact that in order to get from here to there in a reasonable amount of time, I mean less than a human lifetime, would mean traveling at a speed where impacting a grain of sand would cause a nuclear level explosion. And the odds of not encountering specks of dust or small pieces of rock between here and Zeta Reticuli are so small that the odds of getting there in one piece are practically nil. Plus the radiation that you encounter when you start moving at that speed. Normal starlight suddenly becomes high energy radiation. So the shielding that you would need to protect yourself from this would create, increase the weight of the craft. Yeah, can you carry enough fuel? Okay. Is there a day coming at some point in the future where we may overcome all of these technological limitations or barriers? Yeah, maybe. But today it's still science fiction. Wormholes, hyperspace, science fiction. The reason science fiction writers have had to create warp speed, hyperspace, wormholes is because they have to come up with some way of getting from star to star in less than thousands or millions of years. They don't exist in this current time-space continuum.
In Dune, Herbert used space folding.
Yeah.
The engineers would take these drugs and they would fold space.
Yeah. Which is similar, like just a different way of describing a wormhole.
Mm-hmm.
So, but currently those things do not exist. Now, and I've seen, in fact, I just saw this morning as I was, scanning through X, as I am wont to do, and saw some guy just sort of snarkily dismissing Christians and our attitudes towards extraterrestrials, UFOs, et cetera, et cetera. Well, evangelicals are just afraid it would disprove the Bible. No, we're not. Mike Heiser made this point very clear early on when I was interviewing him, around 2007 or 8, and asking him about how is it that a renowned Bible scholar is also a respected ufologist. Mm-hmm. He was fascinated with the idea, just like we are. He was he was a science fiction geek, just like us. Mm-hmm. He said, "Look, if you understand that what God meant when He said, 'Let us create man in our image,' is not that he's a biped, humanoid biped. It's that we are His image bearers. We carry His flag, as it were, His moral agents on earth. So if a rock creature from, Epsilon Eridanus or whatever, landed on Earth, said, 'Take me to your leader,' like, okay, well, maybe he's God's image bearer on Epsilon Eridanus. It doesn't change our relationship to God here on Earth. It does not disprove the Bible. Now, having said that, Guy Malone made a good point years ago that if it was likely we would encounter an interstellar rock creature, God would probably have warned us about that, just to prepare us for that encounter.
Yeah, and this is one reason that I don't believe that there are rock creatures that are bearing God's image on some other planet. The Lord Jesus Christ, who is God Himself,
right,
is going to rule from earth, from Jerusalem.
From Jerusalem, right.
That is the center of all things. That is the
temple at the center of time.
assembly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the Mount of Assembly.
That is the temple at the center of time, and I highly recommend that book.
Yeah. So that kind of brings us, I guess, full circle on this strange week of high weirdness. But I think we're right. We're just a couple of months out from the Steven Spielberg film, which is likely to be a cultural phenomenon like Indiana Jones, the Indiana Jones films, first couple anyway. Mm-hmm. Close Encounters, E.T. Yeah, this will probably get people thinking and talking. And now we've got former congressman in the United States, a sitting member of the Australian Parliament, saying, well, if I could tell you what I know, but I can't. But you'd be surprised who's not entirely human. Like, all right, I think the most likely explanation is that this is what has been since 1947, when the FBI agent who investigated the Kenneth Arnold sightings in the Pacific Northwest in 1947, Guy Bannister.
Yes. Who was connected to the JFK?
Connected to the JFK assassinations as an independent. He was a private investigator in Nolans who just happened to share. Well, his office was in the same building as the office used by Lee Harvey Oswald for the Free Cuba Committee.
If you've ever seen the movie JFK,
yes,
you've seen that character, that person played by
Ed Asner.
Ed Asner, thank you. And his partner played by Jack Lemmon.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Bannister wrote a report on this is all in the book Destination Earth. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I excerpted that section of Destination Earth last year at our Substack account. So if you want to go back through our Substack account and read through the articles, you can read about Guy Bannister.
Is that on Audible yet, Destination Earth?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. See, if you have an Audible account, you can just download that as one of your files for this month.
Yeah. But the bottom line is the federal government and its various intelligence agencies have been controlling the narrative of what information gets to the American public since 1947. And I think that's still what's happening today, which is why, again, with the Tic Tac videos being on YouTube, then yanked off YouTube, then put back on YouTube and spread by the New York Times, which is an outlet of, it's official. It's essentially an official arm of the United States government.
Yeah, it's like a press release.
Yeah. The intelligence agencies are just controlling the narrative again. Are there really breeding programs? I think you're more likely correct. It's happening in laboratories with scientists who think that they can somehow create a better human by mixing.
It's transhumanism.
It is transhumanism, writ large.
Yep, spelled TRANCE.
Yeah. Well, say OG reports or...
Yeah, I just want to really quickly say we will not be having a Gilbert House Fellowship tomorrow morning on Resurrection Sunday. We're going to spend the day with, part of the day at least, with Derek's mom over at the Manor. We wish all of you a very glorious and wonderful Resurrection Sunday with your family, with your friends. If you are celebrating it alone, just know you are not alone.
Yeah.
You may not have another human around you, but first of all, you've got a big family across this globe, a huge family, the body of Christ. You are part of that huge family, but also the Lord is always with you. Your
Amen.
shepherd is always there.
Right. And Sharon makes that point in her Red Wing saga with the protagonist, Charles Sinclair, who sometimes has to go through some really
difficult things
and feels like he's been abandoned. And then just when he needs it most, Fennig will show up. Or Anatole will show up.
Yes, some messenger from the Lord.
Yeah.
And then he will find out later on that he was never, ever alone the whole time.
Yep. So the same applies to us all, regardless of what wilderness journey we are experiencing.
Well, exactly. I mean, you and I do have each other, and I realize that not everyone has a spouse, and not everyone has a wonderful situation with their spouse. You and I are blessed that way.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful to the Lord for it. But if something happened to you or if something happened to me and the Lord called one of us home before the other, we would not be alone. And I've told Derek, I said, you rejoice if the Lord calls me home.
Yeah.
As will I. I'll miss you. But if he calls you first, then, our shepherd is always with us. And we will all be together one day.
Amen. Amen.
Get to see Tom and Mike, and my dad and your dad, my mom, my sisters.
Be quite a homecoming.
Great. I know. But OG report.
Yeah. Well, I had a fun week this week.
If you're on Facebook, you saw the selfie that Derek took just before his experience.
Yes. I was probed.
You were.
Probably by aliens.
Yeah. Well,
no,
probably not.
It was actually
your doctor.
Yeah. So my primary care physician is the one who actually performed the colonoscopy. And so he came in the room. I said, boy, the lengths I had to go through to see you face to face. His practice has gotten so busy that most of the day-to-day visits with patients are done by nurse practitioners.
And he does these colonoscopies a lot. He did mine a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
By the way, the report was very favorable.
Yep.
Everything in there is working well and nothing is wrong.
Yeah. And that was good news because 6 weeks ago when I was in the hospital and I'd come in with already GI distress. It's rather explosive GI distress. They wanted to find out why, so they sent me in for a CT scan. And I'll tell you, when you've got pneumonia and they ask you to hold your breath for 10 seconds, boy, that is the longest 10 seconds of your life.
Yeah.
Anyway, they thought they saw a couple patches of diverticulosis. Turns out, false positive. No,
yeah, exactly. It could be that maybe you didn't hold your breath the entire time, or it was just something else going on in a lot of things can cause artifacts.
Yeah. I was struggling. It was, now I can hold my breath, 20, 25 seconds if I have to, which is not a great length of time, but I mean, it's a lot longer than,
It's not 2 minutes.
No, exactly. Don't ask me to go, diving for, pearls or anything. But so that was good news. And so we're now moving forward. The other bit of news this week is that the insurance company let it be known that absolutely under no circumstances would they pay for the infusion treatment that my neurologist has recommended. Or I shouldn't say under no circumstances. They've said that no, and they would not talk to him. He was going to do a peer-to-peer discussion with them. They sent them the results of my nerve conduction test last Friday, which showed that,
that you
nerves, my extremities are basically fried.
Yeah.
They had said previously or indicated that well, that's what we need to, approve things. And then they got it and said, nope. So he said, okay, let's have a peer-to-peer discussion. They tried 3 times to connect with the insurance company. The insurance company, after the 3rd time, said, just stop bothering us. We've said no, and we mean no.
Well, there are 2 ways to look at that. One would be to get very depressed, and I think many people would. But the other way, the way you and I have chosen, at least I choose to see it this way, and I think you do too, that the Lord has his hand upon your life. And if he wanted you to have that IVIG infusion, you'd be getting it.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. My neurologist has sent a referral to the neuromuscular clinic at hospital up in St. Louis. So we may go ahead and do that. Maybe they've got some other options for treatment that they don't have available here in Springfield.
Yep.
We just
and
have
our
to work
daughter
out.
lives in St. Louis, so we'd have to see Nicole.
Yeah. So I talked to her the other night and was checking on her and her cat.
Yeah.
Her little cat is dealing with
Booker has
stomach cancer.
Yeah.
And but he's still feisty. He saw a cat 3 times his size out the window of the apartment the other day, and Nicole said that Booker was ready to go at him.
Well, that's
of course
just
the window was between him and the other cat. So
it's clear that Booker is still getting a lot out of life. So Nicole would never consider.
Oh, euthanasia?
Not
at this point.
No.
So anyway, Nicole is in a situation at work where they just changed payroll companies, and because somebody lost who had taken how much time off, they all got reset to a full year's worth of PTO. So she said, I've got 15 days. So she may be able to come down and, give me a ride back. And
that would be wonderful. And that's because Derek and I, at least when I drive, I don't like I-44, which is between here and St. Louis. It's 18-wheeler hell. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, truckers.
They are on a mission to make their delivery on time.
Right.
They are clocked by their companies. I have a nephew who drives, and he's told me these things. And he said that's why they just drive like a bat out of hell.
Yeah.
So you and I actually, to get to St. Louis from here, we take Route 66, which is a nice little road, but it takes longer.
Yeah, about 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
So
I usually get really tired after about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So can we just stay in a hotel 2 nights?
Yeah. That'll get us as far as Rolla. And then from there, we could maybe make it to Sullivan. And then,
I know. But Nicole, she drives all the time.
She drives a lot.
She's much younger. So when I was her age, I drove a lot.
Yeah.
Didn't mind.
Yeah.
In fact, I drove from Indiana to meet you.
That's true. You did. Best
when I was Nicole's
day.
age.
Yeah. One of the best days of my life.
Mine too.
So anyway, we will see what happens there. There's no guarantee that the recommendation of the doctors at the hospital up there would have any more influence with the insurance company, but and I'm not even sure that I'd be covered at the hospital up there. They're going to have to check on that.
Well, you'll find out.
That's the first thing. So, but we'll find out. And if nothing else, if we can kick the can down the road for 8 months, I'll be on sweet Medicare.
Woo!
And then we'll go from there. So, meanwhile, I just
you
keep
put muscle
working,
back
exercising.
on after
As we told you over the past few weeks, I dropped a full 20 pounds in 10 days between the influenza and then the pneumonia. I've gained back about 11. So working on it. I mean, I don't know what more we can do. Those breakfasts at Alice Irene's. I mean, if those won't put weight on you, I don't know what will.
I do love eating there, I have to say.
Little family-owned restaurant in Marionville, Missouri.
Yeah, where Derek's mother is, the manor where she lives is in Marionville, Missouri. It's a sweet town.
It is. Home to white squirrels.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Don't hurt one.
Yeah. Now, I know Olney, Illinois claims to have white squirrels. Now, I called on a good customer when we were back there 2011 to 2015. Called on Olney, that customer there every 3 weeks for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And I never saw a white squirrel.
I have a theory on that.
Yeah?
I think the white squirrels moved to Missouri because Illinois' tax base was too high.
I think you're right. You're taking all our nuts.
That really upsets them.
Yeah. But, you go to Marionville and local ordinance, if you hurt a white squirrel, you have to pay a fine.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, but almost every time we go there, you'll see at least one. Mm-hmm. So anyway, still working on that. So I'm getting back on the recumbent bike and doing the push-ups, try to get my arms. In fact, the neurologist was surprised. One of the tests he did stuck a pin in a muscle in my forearm and then had me, lift up. And he was surprised at how much, upper arm strength I've got, biceps and triceps.
You do.
It's because my primary care physician a year ago put me on testosterone because there's research showing that it regrows the protein coat around nerves, myelin.
And you do push-ups every morning.
But I've been, trying to work them to try to help the testosterone. Here's where you're supposed to go, testosterone. But when my arms are stronger, it helps when I'm on the cane. Mm-hmm. It helps when I have to grab a banister to, help me get upstairs or whatever. And the recumbent bike, which was given to us by
Tammy and Donnie. Thank you. You guys, seriously, if we end up selling this house and moving, that bike's going with us.
It is going with us because it is helping with my legs, and it helped me get through Israel last fall. So anyway, that's the OG report, just getting stronger and trying to get my weight back on and trying to make sure that when it comes on as muscle.
Yep. And I am still working on book 9. I posted to my Substack, and also I think I put it at Facebook, that when I can, I write a bit. But Derek is my priority every day. And if that means that and also keeping the house clean and picked up.
Yeah, since it's listed for sale now.
Last minute, someone who wants to come by. And we're grateful for that. I'm not going to complain. Yeah. It just means that I need to make sure that the bathrooms are clean and stuff like that. And I try to keep all of the laundry done, just little things like that.
Yeah.
I've seen some pictures of houses for sale that, do you really want your laundry room to be filled with laundry on the floor?
Well, I will say this. 35 years ago, for a brief season, I was a realtor. As I was trying to figure out how to get out of the radio business and still provide for my family. And I did okay at it. I was Rookie of the Year for my office there in St. Louis. But there were a couple places I showed that were families that were probably having tough times because they were not picked up. They were not ready to show. I mean, you go in and there's laundry, not just in the laundry room, but laying in various rooms.
Everybody is different. And if you live that way, then you may not even see it. Yeah. But also, there are an awful lot of families that either it's one parent only at the home or both parents are working. Yeah. And it's difficult. We're in a position where we're at home all day.
Right. So believe me, when we say we're not trying to cast aspersions on the way other people
There
live.
are reasons for that.
Right. It can be very difficult. You've been working 10 or 8, 10, 12-hour shift or whatever.
Yep.
And you come home and you're exhausted.
Yeah, and when you and I have looked at houses, I honestly don't see that stuff.
No, we can look past.
Show me the bones of the house, what's here, what's the location like. Our location is wonderful. If you've ever thought, I would love to move to Southwest Missouri, look us up.
I have a view off the back deck of just rolling hills and occasionally cows that come up to the back fence and just say hello. Yeah.
And some of them say, would you like to have a hamburger today?
Yeah. The building inspector, when we were in the process of buying this home, said, oh, you have delicious neighbors. And we do. Yeah, I've got a neighbor up the road from whom we buy our beef. And
they're
clean
grass-fed beef.
Yeah,
which
no
makes them
hormones.
full of no hormones, makes them full of lots of goodness.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the things that are going on.
Report.
Oh, and one more kind of humorous note. We missed a showing on Tuesday because they wanted to come on Tuesday, and that's the day I was in preparation for the colonoscopy.
Yes,
if you've ever had one, you know what that means. It's like, I'm sorry, I cannot be more than 10 steps from the restroom for the rest of the day.
Yep. You don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I can't keep those bathrooms clean that day. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
It does not happen.
We can't leave, and you don't want to be here.
But God is good, and this is why we laugh. Many of you are dealing with very difficult circumstances. Right. It may be because of health. It may be because of something with your marriage or the lack of a marriage. It may be financial. It may be that you don't have a home. I know some of you have been posting that you rent and you've been told you no longer can rent there, or you need to leave your house for whatever reason. The Lord is with you. And it's very difficult to trust, but the only way we can learn to trust is have that trust tested. Yeah.
And I will say that having the physical limitations of the last 18 months, it's like, well, I guess this is what others have been going through and worse, so it makes me a little more empathetic.
If indeed, according to Ephesians 6, our shield is faith, the stronger your faith, the bigger the shield.
Amen. Well, we got a couple of events to tell you about. We'll be in Ohio in July for the Go Therefore conference, which is always one of the high points of the calendar year for us. Dr. Mike Spalding, Kathy Spalding, they put this on with the help of Pastor Neil Peterson at the Harvest Revival Center in Brookville, Ohio.
Yeah.
Neil and his team there, they make this a very comfortable event and a setting for attending a conference. The seating in the auditorium, the seating in the sanctuary are very comfortable, and from an AV standpoint, because Neil is a tech geek, that's what he did before he started pastoring. The screen at the back of at the front of the sanctuary, I should say, for displaying presentation slides is huge, so you can see it in the back row, which is great. But if you can't be there for the event, July 24th and 25th, the video stream, multiple camera angles, it's really wonderful. The audio is great, so you can watch it at home, and you know you're going to get your money's worth in terms of being able to see and hear everything the presenters are putting out. And because they're not doing it live, they basically record it and then upload it as soon as it's recorded. So you can stop and pause the stream if you need to take a break, then come back to it, rewatch something if you missed something. That is really helpful too. But the speakers this year, Carl Gallups, Carl Teichrieb, and we can recommend them as two of the best Carls we know.
We know a number of Carls, and these guys they're
right
Carl
the
squared.
Yeah, Carl's 1A and 1B on the list of Carls. Dr. Greg Reed, spiritual warrior who has seen the supernatural enemy up close.
Yes, he's been at this for decades.
Yeah. John Haller, prophecy expert par excellence. I'll say again, as I've been saying every week, watch his weekly prophecy update on YouTube. It's the Fellowship Bible Chapel YouTube channel. Highly recommended. Tom Hughes, another prophecy expert. Olivier Melnick, who is a Messianic Jew. And given what's going on in the world right now and the way Christians are turning against Israel, Olivier is a voice that needs to be heard.
Absolutely.
So, and of course, then Dr. Mike Spalding as well, whose new book on supersessionism or replacement theology, very important. He just got interviewed a couple programs on Prophecy Watchers. Gary Stearman interviewed Mike.
I saw that, and it's about time.
Yeah, and he's going to be out at Skywatch TV in just a couple of weeks.
I know. And Derek Gilbert is going to be speaking.
Oh, yes. I will be there as well. And I think, I haven't decided for sure, but I'm leaning towards doing a presentation titled A Non-Biblical Defense of Israel.
Interesting.
Yeah, which may just, it will be biblical in the sense that it is biblical to defend Israel, but looking at the history of the region and the history of Islam. And the fact is, and I saw a fellow who I want to interview on A View from the Bunker, Dan Bermawi, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, former Muslim, who wrote on X this past week that you cannot be neutral on the issue of Islam versus Israel because Islam will not allow you to be neutral.
Oh, no, they won't.
Right. And that is the point. If you're looking at the current situation with Iran and the war with Iran as something that Netanyahu cajoled or compelled or dragged Trump into, that is not the case. The fact is that the history of Islam, 1,400-year history of Islam, if you are aware of what Islam has done to other religions and cultures that it's encountered in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, you can only reach one conclusion, that Israel is on the front lines of this conflict and has been for the last 80 years.
Yep. If Israel falls,
yeah,
then everything falls.
We're already seeing it from imams in Europe and in the UK and even here in the United States who are bold enough to post to social media, United States belongs to Islam and we will have it soon. Wait, excuse me? Mm-hmm. And here they're hiding behind the First Amendment, freedom of religion. We get to say this. Well,
but that also means that Christians get to say their belief system. And you shouldn't force Christians to convert to Islam?
Yeah, well, freedom of religion is only a thing for Muslims until they are the majority.
Yeah.
Then there is no freedom of religion. And by the way, speaking of Christians and speaking their faith, tip of the headphones to former Chicago Bulls guard Jaden Ivey, who joined the Bulls this year in a trade from Detroit. He'd been rehabbing his knee. He accepted Jesus Christ recently and was cut for criticizing the NBA, the National Basketball Association, for celebrating Pride Month.
Oh.
So he's been cut. Now he's still got, I think he's still owed like $11 million by the Pistons, and the Bulls owe him, several million, I think. So financially he's okay, but I also saw a video that he had shared that his friends and even his family, implying his wife, are thinking that he's crazy for doing this because he was going to be a free agent at the end of the year and probably would have signed a contract upwards of $100 million.
Golly.
But that's the point. If you can make that statement when you have everything to lose, then...
Yeah.
Yeah. So we pray for Jaden Ivey, especially for the stability of his family, because... Yeah.
Better lose everything on this earth and save your soul.
What does it gain a man?
Yep.
What does it profit a man? Yeah. So anyway, the other event this year, Remnant Rising 2.0 conference here in Springfield, Missouri.
Wonderful lineup, 16 speakers.
Wow, that's going to be a busy weekend.
John Pounders, Jamie Walden, Tony Merkel, Joe Horn, Derek Gilbert, someone named Sharon Gilbert, don't know who that is.
I love her.
I love Derek. Vicki Joy Anderson, Dave Hodges, Kenny C. Come on. Josh Tolley, Tracy Tennant, one of our great friends from just north of here, Larry Ragland, David Paxton, Mike Kerr, Jeannie Moore, Gerard James, and Sarah Weiss. They're actually not going to be speaking. They are going to be providing the music. And, of course, Mike and Jeannie are providing the event. So I guess they're not speaking. But Patrick McCurdy, that we got to know last year, former police officer who now does counseling. Yeah,
for first responders who deal with traumatic things as they sometimes are called to do. But
So-
he actually called me after the conference just to check in and say, how you doing? How's your health? You doing okay?
Isn't he wonderful? He
Yeah.
helped me a lot because you cannot carry boxes. I was carrying things back and forth,
Right.
and Patrick jumped in there and said, no, let me do this.
Yeah.
HearTheWatchman.com, HearTheWatchmen.com.
Yeah, that's August 7th through 9th in Springfield, Missouri.
Great town.
Yeah, and a lot to do there. And, of course, it's only 45 minutes from Branson.
Yeah.
So if you drive in or if you fly in or rent a car at the Springfield-Branson National Airport, which is not necessary if you're just going to the conference because the Oasis Hotel has a shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
But rent a car, drive down to Branson.
Yeah.
See one of the beautiful shows at the Sight and Sound Theater.
Or if you're just driving from a nearby state
Yeah.
or city, go down to Branson. If
Go to
you've
the
never
Creation
been.
Museum down there.
It's a great, really. They've also got a Titanic.
Yes, the Titanic
Exhibit.
Titanic. Yes, the Titanic Museum.
Yes, that.
A lot to do down there. A lot of great food down there as well.
Great train.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
They
you
got that
can-
little train where you got the you can have
get
a meal on
dinner
the train.
and you can see
Right.
the area from this wonderful train.
Go out. They've got a boat that does shows on Table Rock Lake
They
or Lake
do, don't
Taneycomo,
they?
one or the other.
Yeah, like a showboat.
Yeah. So a lot to do down in Branson. The Branson Landing, a lot of fun shops. And, of course, Silver Dollar City, which is an Ozark-themed amusement park.
Yeah, there are a lot of artisan exhibits and also some rides you can go on.
Yeah.
And it's a whole lot of fun for the whole family.
Can you tell we love living here in the Ozarks?
It is wonderful. So again, if you've always wanted to move to Southwest Missouri, take a look at Realtor.com.
There you go. Well, again, this being the weekend that our Lord and Savior was resurrected from the dead, and resurrection being at the very heart of the gospel, as Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. We will not have a Bible study tomorrow.
That wasn't in 1 Corinthians 15.
No, that part wasn't.
Yeah.
But Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 15 about the essence of the gospel being resurrection. So if you want to read this weekend with your family, I would recommend 1 Corinthians 15 because not only does it summarize the gospel in two sentences, one sentence really, it gives you the apologetics, the reason that we can know that we know that we know that the gospel is true. The eyewitness testimony of hundreds. The
They
whole
were
point
still
of
alive at the time that Paul was writing.
yes, 20 years after the resurrection. Hey, look, if you don't believe me, send somebody to Jerusalem and ask around because he appeared to more than 500 brothers at one time, most of whom are still alive. Go ask around. Confirm that what I'm telling you is true. And then understand, then the rest of 1 Corinthians 15, beginning at verse 12, just goes into the reason for believing in the resurrection. Christ was the first fruits. He was the template for the rest of us. Mm-hmm. Because when that day comes, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, we shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed.
Hallelujah.
And that was what happened on Resurrection Sunday 2,000 years ago. So, until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert. We love you so very much. Happy Resurrection Sunday. Bye-bye, everybody.
VID radio is on the air. Politics, prophecies, and conspiracy.